Welcome back. We're on The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Okay. Rapidity is the essence of war. Remember he said previously that a long drawn out war will deplete your sources and ruin your weapons because they'll gain rust or wear and the men will long for home. Take advantage of the enemy's unreadiness. Make your way by unexpected routes and attack unguarded spots. Okay, so attack the enemy when they're not ready, when they're not prepped, and travel in ways that is not predictable. So basically, don't take the main road. You ain't taking a highway, you know what I mean? Okay, and attack unguarded spots. Okay. The following are the principles to be observed by an invading force. The further you penetrate into a country, the greater will be the solidarity of your troops, and thus the defenders will not prevail against you. Okay, this is so interesting because, was it Cortez? I think it was Cortez and Caesar. I wish I could remember which one it was. Dang it! But one of them, it was Caesar. He did burn his ships too. But I know that Cortez, there was a couple ships, but there still wasn't. But when both Cortez and Gaius Julius Caesar went deep into the territories, the men had no other choice than to unite with each other. Okay? They know this is it. The deeper you're going into enemy territory, it's almost like your soldiers are getting more condensed with each other, right? They're side by side and they're like, man, we gotta go in. This is fascinating that even the Chinese were like, this is like a universal strategy, right? This is a universal, principle. So, especially if, like they're saying, if you're the invading force, when Cortez took his troops into Tabasco and then slowly got closer and closer to the Aztec capital, right? His men were like, this is crazy. We're fighting with pyramids, like this is crazy. So that's a good point. Make forays in fertile country in order to supply your army with food. Carefully study the well-being of your men, and do not overtax them. Concentrate your energy and hoard your strength. Wow. This is brilliant because it keeps reminding us there's this psychology to warfare, that it's not just about the weapons, the land, the weather, the geographical aspects. The psychology of your soldiers is very important. And that the well-being of your men is a value to you. It's an asset that has to be guarded and maintained. Keep your army continually on the move and devise unfathomable plans. So keep them moving, maybe so they don't get lazy and out of shape and bored and their mind starts to wander. They start, daydreaming about, what am I going to do when I get home? Oh, I miss my woman. What if I can just desert the army and leave? And devise unfathomable plans. So basically, you got to be pretty clever and you need to really come up with some plans that are going to help you succeed. Throw your soldiers into positions whence there is no escape, and they will prefer death to flight. If they will face death, there is nothing they may not achieve. What's interesting? Again, Bernal Diaz, in his Conquest of Spain book that I read, which is a fascinating read, you should read it, he said that they were in the capital of the Aztecs. They had the gold, some of the gold they wanted, but the brave Aztec warriors they said they were fierce, and they were on the pyramids, and they were shooting down as the Spaniards as they ran, and that the Aztecs started to lift up the bridge because the Aztecs had water around some of their pyramids, right? And some of the Aztec soldiers were in canoe type boats, right? And they're shooting arrows, and there's just arrows going all down, and they're like, oh no, oh no, 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 no. Like they would make noises like that, and it would scare the Spaniards, and they're like, oh, we gotta get out of here. And the only way of escaping, they had to jump over that gap and then make it out. And even Cortez was like, we're all out of here. It's do or die. We gotta escape, right? And they're escaping, and I think it was Bernal Diaz, he said that he had some gold. And he's like, if I hold on to the gold, I'm not going to be able to jump over this pass. I'm going to fall into the water. The Aztecs are going to come in their canoes, shoot me in the water, and I'm just going to die and rot in there, right? So he had to let go of his gold, jump out, and it was every person for themselves. There was no time for formation. They're just like, we can't beat them. They swamped us. We got to get out. And they all escaped. They lived to fight another day, especially when they captured Montezuma, and they had to, they captured Montezuma in the pyramid. At first, they held him hostage, and then, the people rebelled anyways. I think it was the nephew of Montezuma who wanted to take power, and they were gonna burn. What are they gonna burn him in the pyramid? I forget, but they had a whole plan, and like Cortez and his men, they're inside the pyramid, inside the capital of the Aztec Empire, surrounded by enemies, and they had to be super clever and be brave. So when he talks about when there's no way of escape, your man is like, it's do or die, you're going to see a lot come out of them. Officers and men alike will put forth their uttermost strength. Soldiers, when in desperate straits, lose the sense of fear. If there is no place of refuge, they will stand firm. I think this is important for the youth to remember when they're surrounded by enemies. In high school and junior high, man, it's not the same as an army, but sometimes high school can feel like a prison, especially with the violent schools in the hoods. You got to stand firm and you can't show fear. And when they surround you, that was a psychological thing that people used to do. I've been in groups where they surrounded a person, and I've been surrounded before. And when you look around and you don't know who's there to watch and who's there to participate, it's time to stand firm and hold your ground and not be weak. I knew girls, for example. That's a good example of what he's talking about here. So the girls would go up, the brats, the trashy chicks. They'd go up in a group, they'd surround the girl, right? She'd be like this. They'd be like, I heard you was talking shit about me. And then the girl would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't like you, but I wasn't talking about you. But you know I don't like you. And she stood firm. But that wasn't what the main antagonist wanted. She wanted her to be like, oh, start crying, and then she would attack her, right? Then she would get more glory, because some girls like to terrorize a chick before they beat her up. They intimidate her, right? They surround you. They want to extract that fear from you. They can feed off of it before they beat the crap out of you. But if you're just like fearless, no. Like, they're not going to get their high from it. And if you lose, you were brave, right? And then they came off as somebody who couldn't intimidate you even though they had the numbers. So this whole psychology is like what Sun Tzu is saying can apply to so many different aspects if you take the principles and think about it. If they're in the heart of hostile country, they will show a stubborn front. If there is no help for it, they will fight hard. I agree. Thus, without waiting to be marshaled, the soldiers will be constantly on the qui vive. Without waiting to be asked, they will do your will. Okay, so the qui vive means without asking, you will get. Like, you don't even gotta tell us, we're just gonna do it. Look at this picture. That's cool. Without restrictions, they will be faithful. Without giving orders, they can be trusted. Wow, without giving orders, they can be trusted. Prohibit the taking of omens, and do away with superstitious doubts. Then, until the death itself comes, no calamity need be feared. You know, it's interesting. Some people say that one of the reasons why the Vikings or the pagans and such, the Norse people, lost certain battles with the Gauls against, the Romans is because they did too many omens, right? The doom of like, okay, there's this omen, there's that omen, right? It causes too much doubt. It's distracting. But then, you had the flip side. Caesar had some omens of his wife's dream, and then some other dude that was like, beware the Ides of March. However true that is, we don't know. But that he didn't hear the omens, right? So we have these two cases in our history, in our culture as a species on this planet. not listening to omens to let yourself get too like off your game, and then not listening to omens when you should have, right? Very cool. And omens, I think, for some is just a sign, right? Detecting when you can get victory, when you can't, but also there's that spiritual side to it. It's so intense. If our soldiers are not overburdened with money, it is not because they have a distaste for riches. If their lives are not unduly long, it is not because they are disinclined to longevity. On the day they are ordered out to battle, your soldiers may weep. Those sitting up bedewing their garments, and those lying down letting their tears run down their cheeks. But let them once be brought to bay, and they will display the courage of Chu or Kuei. Okay, so Kuei looks like Kung Tzu Quang is who they're talking about, maybe, and Chuan Chu. Don't know who those people are. Be very cool to read about them in the future. The skillful tactician may be likened to Shuajian. Now the Shuajian is a snake that is found in the Chang Mountains. And I guess it's a snake that's really quick. Strike at its head and you will be attacked by its tail. Strike at its tail and you will be attacked by its head. Strike at its middle and you will be attacked by the head and the tail both. Oh my gosh. Oh, it sounds like a scorpion, right? When you grab it and it pinches you with its pincers and its tail. Ow. Double-edged sword. That's terrible. Ask if an army can be made to imitate the Shuajian. I should answer yes, for the men of Wu and the men of Yue are enemies. Yet if they are crossing a river in the same boat and are caught by storm, they will come to each other's assistance just as the left hand helps the right. Whoa. Hence it is not enough to put one's trust in the tethering of horses and the burying of chariot wheels in the ground. The principle on which to manage an army is to set up one standard of courage which all must reach. Bruh, think about that. The principle of managing an army is you set up a standard. Remember, think of the Roman standard. There can be a physical standard that serves to remind you of the ideal standard, right? Think of a flag, but a flag sometimes is not the same. Wow, the courage which all must reach. So, remember when the standard bearers in ancient Rome, it was the eagle, right? And somebody's job it was to hold that. And remember, for the Romans, if that got captured, it was a huge demoralizer, like, oh, look, our own standard. And in times of fear and panic, the soldiers would look to the standard and remember, this is for Rome! Another reason why the shields would have certain designs, right? It is said that the Macedonians had very fearsome faces on their shields to not only stir up their courage, but to help keep their like weakness at bay. Like when you're like getting panic and you have doubt, and then you look over, you see your fellow soldier's shield and it's some fierce like monster like Medusa or something, and you're like, oh, I'm brave, let's do it, you know? This makes sense if you think about it. Wow. And I like this. It's talking about one standard they all must reach, not, oh, you can go here to this standard, and you can go to this standard, and oh, you can go to this standard. Then you have inconsistency, right? Then you don't have discipline. You don't have unity. And then that allows favoritism and infighting within the camp. Makes a lot of sense. What do you think, family? Sun Tzu is a brilliant dude. We're almost done with this book, but we still got a little bit ways to go. But fascinating. Really cool.